Business Insider. Military and Defense section. The Air Force's rods from God could hit with the force of a nuclear weapon with no fallout. I'm going to read this article and then we are going to go to footage. Right here. This is what they call the tungsten needles. All right. Some people call them it's called Project Thor. Micro tungsten needle. That's a deceptive name considering that they are 20 feet long, the size of a telephone booth. The 107 country outer space treaty signed in 1967 prohibits nuclear, biological, or chemical weapons from being placed in or used from Earth's orbit. What they didn't count on was the United States Air Force's most simple weapon ever, a tungsten rod that could hit a city with the explosive power of an intercontinental ballistic missile. During the Vietnam War, the United States used what it called lazy dog bombs. These were simply solid steel pieces less than 2 inches long fitted with fins. There was no explosive. They were simply dropped from hundreds of planes flying above Vietnam. Lazy dog projectiles, aka kinetic bombardment, could reach speeds of up to 500 miles an hour as they fell to the ground and could penetrate 9 inches of concrete after being dropped from as little as 3,000 feet. The idea is like shooting bullets at a target, except instead of losing velocity as it travels, the projectile is gaining velocity and energy that will be expended on impact. They were shotgunning a large swath of jungle, raining bullet-sized death at high speeds. That's how Project Thor came to be. Instead of hundreds of small projectiles from a few thousand feet, Thor used a large projectile from a few thousand miles above the Earth. The rods from God idea was a bundle of telephone pole-size tungsten rods dropped from orbit, reaching a speed of up to 10 times the speed of sound. Right here it says 20 foot long, 1 foot in diameter. The rod itself would penetrate hundreds of feet into the Earth, destroying any potential hardened bunkers or secret underground sites. More than that, when the rods hit, the explosion would be on par with the magnitude of a ground-penetrating nuclear weapon, but with no fallout. Such a weapon could destroy a target within 15 minutes' notice. One Quora user who works in the defense aerospace industry quoted a cost of no less than $10,000 a pound to fire anything into space. With 20 cubic feet of dense tungsten weighing in at just over 2,400 pounds, the math is easy. Just one of the rods would be prohibitively expensive. The cost of $230 million a rod was unimaginable during the Cold War. These days, not so much. The Bush administration even considered revisiting the idea to hit underground nuclear sites in rogue nations in the years following 9/11. Interestingly enough, the cost of a single Minuteman III ICBM was $7 million in 1962. When it was first introduced, $57 million adjusted for inflation. The trouble with the nuclear payload is that it isn't designed to penetrate deep into the surface, and the fallout from a nuclear device can be as devastating to surroundings, potentially friendly areas. A core taken away from the concept of weapons like Project Thor's is hypersonic weapons pack a significant punch and may be the future of global warfare. Now let's go to that images I want to show you, the video.
Currency war as other nations devalue simply to compete with China, and there are political implications.
Overseas tonight, the death toll is rising after a pair of explosions delivered a massive 1-2 punch to the Chinese city of Tianjin.
A massive explosion that has been reported at the Tianjin municipality in China. Take a listen to this. That explosion occurred in what's called the Binhai New area. It's in North China's Tianjin municipality. It occurred at about 11:30 p.m. last night.
The blasts being called apocalyptic.
We're getting our first pictures, and would you look at this? Explosions in China, and then absolute disaster underway now in the city of Tianjin, or Tianjin, I should say. This happened Wednesday night at 11:30 p.m. local time. An enormous explosion that lit up the night sky and could be felt for miles in all directions. State broadcaster CTV, Central Television of China, reports the blast happened in a shipment of explosives.
In a shipment of explosives.
Whoa! Oh! What the? Holy! No! What? No, baby! No! Are we dangerous here? Yeah, we're dangerous. Oh my God! Are you filming? Yes, I'm filming. Whoa! Whoa! I think we are dangerous. Let's go! Let's go down! Let's go! Come on!
That is a new development area. It is a port city. As a matter of fact, it is the largest artificial port in China. It serves as a container port, but there are also a lot of industrial companies, chemical companies. We don't know exactly what happened here. And once again, these are social media pictures, not completely authenticated by CNBC or NBC, but as you can see, it appears to show a massive industrial explosion of some sort.
A first blast had shaken the port city of Tianjin just before midnight. Then this. A massive explosion, many times bigger than the first blast, and a blinding white light. They see it, and then they feel it. The shockwaves shattering windows and turning shards of glass into projectiles. Images of the blast flooded Chinese social media. A storefront disappearing, a living room covered in broken glass. Tonight, local hospitals are overwhelmed with hundreds of injured, some burned, many cut by flying glass and debris. Tianjin is one of China's biggest industrial centers, home to 11 million people and a major hub for petrochemical industries. Tonight, people are being warned to stay inside in case of toxic fumes. And 70 miles away in Beijing, this message: please shut the doors and windows, not sure if harmful gas.
Residents posting photos of blown out windows and doors on a local media site called Weibo, similar to Twitter, but users are finding that posts relating to the disaster have disappeared. Others note that the number of searchable posts on the disaster fluctuated, basically a sign that Chinese authorities are manipulating or placing limits on the number of posts.
Thank you.